Alright, you lot, and welcome back for episode 2 of our discovery of the F-18 in DCS. Today, we are going to get this beast started up. Let's get cracking.
What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer.
Right, so I've done a fair chunk of research on this subject, and there is a lot of different information on the internet. I've been reading up on Chuck's guide. I'll put a link in the description to that. That is like the be-all and end-all of F-18 tutorials for DCS. It's a big old PDF broken down into every single section. There's so much detail in there. But his startup procedure is very long-winded. It goes through all the functional tests, all that sort of stuff. So what I intend to do today is make this as quick and painless as possible. For those of you who want to do a start yourselves, I will show you how to cheat on that a little bit. But you don't want to sit through the whole long-winded procedure. So we are going to start by getting our engine started. So if we look down on the right-hand side, put the battery to the on position. And then over on the left here, we're going to start the APU by flicking that switch there. What we're waiting for is a nice green light right there. There she is. So we are ready to get our engine started. If we look up here, we've got our engine RPM. When I hit the crank switch, we're going to wait for that to get to 25%, and then we're going to open the throttles. So let's... Apparently we're starting the left engine first, because I pressed the wrong button. So you can see our left engine RPM climbing. When that hits 25, we're going to hit right Alt and home to open the left-hand throttle. There it goes. Now we're letting fuel in. Up she comes. Slowly but surely. We're looking for about 65% for idle. Oh, that's a good noise. There it is. Now we'll crank the right. Waiting for the same thing.
Flight controls.
This time we're going to press right shift and home to open the right-hand throttles. There's 25. Now we'll just monitor that starting up. Nice. Once that's up, we can get rid of the APU. Don't need that anymore, and we'll shut the lid because that's pretty noisy. Next thing then, we're going to get all these screens turned on. So at the top of the screen we've got the switches. We'll turn all of them two today, and we'll drag the brightness up on the bottom screen. Turn on the HUD is with this little dial here. We're also going to, at the bottom of here, make sure that attitude selector is in auto, which it was, and we'll change the altitude to radar altitude. While we're down here as well, our standby thingy here, if you rotate this little switch, the red flag goes away to tell you it's turned on. Right, the next bit is alignment for our navigation systems, called the INS, or Inertial Navigation System. Now, doing this the normal way takes about 8 minutes. Right, I'm going to get rid of the stick for a second. If we do the quick way, it takes about a minute and a half. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think I'm patient enough to wait 8 minutes for that. I've done it a couple of times now, and oh, it just takes forever. So what we'll do is we'll do it the quick way. So down here, this is our INS switch. We are going to turn that to ground because we're in an airfield. If you're on a carrier, you turn that to CV, which is for the carrier alignment. So we'll turn that to ground, and then we'll quickly look back at our AMPCD down here, and you can see we're in ground alignment, and we're waiting for a time to start. Now what we can press is this standard heading down here, and that'll box that, and basically that takes a reading from where the aircraft last knew it was at. In the real world, I'm assuming that would have some sort of consequence if you'd move the aircraft around, but we're not in the real world, are we? So let's try and speed things up for ourselves. If you want to do it the standard way, you just leave that, and it takes about 8 minutes to align. What we're waiting for here is this number to get down to about 0.5, and it's to say OK next to it. So while we're waiting for that, we'll get on with setting up the rest of the cockpit. Starting down the left-hand side, the OBOGs, we'll turn that on. Check your volumes, make sure your volume's okay. Now, because we're on an airfield, not a carrier, our wings are already folded out, so we can hit reset on the FCS. If you look here, we've got a lot of FCS related no-goes, flaps, AI FCS. So we'll hit reset on there, hold that for a second, and all we've got now is INS degraded because we're not aligned yet. Next thing we need to do is make sure we set a takeoff trim. Now if we look on the right hand DDI, press menu again, and then FCS, we can see what our flying controls are doing at the minute. Now if we take a note of their numbers, leading edge flaps, trailing edge flaps, ailerons, rudder and stabilizers. So stabilizer at 0. If we hit our takeoff trim, hold that for a couple of seconds, our stabilizers have gone up 12 now, so that makes taking off a lot easier. Now the computer calculates all this, so you don't have to worry about what it's set to. It depends on what you've got on board. So external lights, we're going to drag up the position and the formation lights. I'll do a quick sneaky check behind there, make sure our strobes are on. They are. Moving up the way, launch bars for carrier, so I don't need to worry about that. We're on the ground, so we'll stick it to half flaps. Landing the taxi light we can turn on. Anti-skid, if you're on the carrier, then that needs to be switched off. If you're on at an airfield, you need to turn that on. And again, the same with the hook bypass. Set that to field because we're at an airfield. We can turn on our ALR 67 and listen to that lovely noise. That's just amazing. Our dispenser to on, and we'll stick our ECM to record. Let's have a quick check down here. Oh, we've got 0.6 and we got OK, so it's close enough. So what we need to do now, back down to this panel, and we turn our INS switch round to IFA, which is in-flight alignment. According to Chuck's guide, if you are flying an aircraft before a certain date, something like 1986, and your aircraft doesn't have GPS, and you set that to nav. But I think the standard is IFA. So moving around the cockpit further, if you want to use your helmet mounted display, we can stick that on. And come down this side, our hook is up, our wings are out and locked, so that will be wings not locked, and you hear that noise. And you get the little caption there that tells you your wings are unlocked, so make sure that's pushed in. Generators are on. Our pitot heat is on auto. Auto just means that it only operates when you take off. The only reason you'd need that on is if you were taking off in icing conditions. We'll arm our ejection seat. We don't need any internal lights because it's daylight. And we are going to turn our radar to operate. Again, this works off the weight on wheel switches, so it will only operate when you've lifted off the ground. So now, if we look on the outside, we have no chocks fitted. So we can. You're also looking for a nose wheel steering indication in the HUD. If we let off the parking brake by clicking that there, we should. Off we go. We are ready to fly. Let's have a quick look at starting up on a carrier. So here we are then on the deck of the carrier. I've got the aircraft started up until the point that the engines are on and the screens are on. So we'll look at the INS alignment first. So we go down to our INS switch and we're going to turn that one click to CV. Straight down to our center screen or AMPCD, and we'll hit the standard heading button. The only difference between this is the aircraft takes its INS alignment position from something that's plugged into the carrier.
Colt 1, airborne.
So there we go. Timer is going up, and the quality is coming down, so that's good. We'll stick our radar to operate. Work our way around. O-box is on.
Colt 1, passing waypoint 1 at 5.
Volumes are set. Now, flight controls again. Our wings are folded because we're on the carrier, so we have to wait a little bit further in the process till we get onto that. Down here then, set the flaps to half. Anti-skid is off because we're on the carrier. Hook bypass is set to carrier. Turn the HUD on. Click that one, round one click. We can't check our wings yet because they are still folded. Can arm the seat. That's checked. Don't need internal lighting. We'll check on our INS. Turn all this on. She's coming. It's normally about a minute and a half for the standard heading. And there we go. We got 0.5 and OK. So we can go down here, and again we turn it to IFA. One last thing to remember about taxiing on the carrier, which I've missed a fair few times, is we do have chocks fitted, as you can see there. So what we need to do is we need to talk to the ground crew and get them to take them out. So if you press the hashtag button, that brings up a menu in the top right hand corner of your screen. You can use the F keys, or you can click it with the mouse. So I'm going to click ground crew, click wheel chocks, and ask the guy outside to take the wheel chocks out. Make sure you take the chocks out before you take the brakes off. You don't want to run anybody over. So now we've got the wheel chocks out. We can take the parking brake off. Also on the carrier, there is a button on here. If you find the nose wheel steering button inside the controls menu, you can press that. If you see up here on the HUD, we now have nose wheel steering high. That allows me to do some ridiculously tight turns. Look at that. But it's a lot tighter on the carrier. Right, last but by no means least, this is for all you people out there who can't be asked with learning the starter procedure. Just want to get this aircraft up and running and flying. Now, I will warn you, this procedure does take a little bit longer than the quick procedure I just showed you, but you don't have to learn anything. All you need to do is press left Windows button and home on the keyboard. If you look up in the top right corner up there, it says auto start sequence is running. Now, what I'm going to do is, because this takes a couple of minutes, I'm going to speed this up for you, and I'll see you once we're up and running. So there we have it, the auto start sequence. As you can see, it takes a little bit longer than everything else. So I still think the quick way of doing it actually works a bit faster, but it's totally up to you on your preference. Like I said at the beginning, go and check out Chuck's guide. It is what I've found anyway, the definitive checklist and book on how to operate and fly the F-18 in DCS. That's what I'm going to be using as most of my references throughout this, so go check it out. I will see you all next time when we explore taking off. Thanks for your time. Again, if you've enjoyed it, like, subscribe, maybe leave a comment, have a dig at my procedures and tell me where I'm going wrong, and please come again for the next video. Cheers, guys.
What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let 'em burn it out.